her niece to stay exactly where she was. Mel practically flew down the stairs, her heart fluttering with a mixture of anxiety and long-forgotten romantic anticipation. She flung open the heavy oak front door, a dazzling, welcoming smile plastered across her face. The smile instantly vanished. Standing on her porch was not her handsome, highly anticipated date. It was the disheveled, angry man from the town hall meeting. Mel groaned in absolute disgust, bluntly stating that she had been expecting her date. The man held up his hands in a gesture of surrender. He promised that he would be incredibly quick. He admitted, his voice raspy and devoid of its previous aggression, that he had been a complete jackass down at City Hall earlier that afternoon. He confessed that he never should have crashed her important political meeting to publicly demand the whereabouts of her fugitive brother-in-law. He acknowledged that his behavior was entirely wrong, and he stated that he had simply come to her home to look her in the eye and say that he was truly sorry. He then leaned in, his eyes narrowing, and sharply whispered the word Bolivia. He stated, as if it were an undeniable fact, that Lewis was currently hiding out in the country of Bolivia. Mel gasped, her shoulders jerking upward in surprise. The man pointed a triumphant finger at her, declaring that she had just flinched, taking it as an absolute confirmation of his theory. Mel angrily shot back that she had only flinched because he had suddenly and aggressively shouted the word Bolivia directly into her face. She sarcastically added that innocent people currently residing in Bolivia had probably flinched from the sheer volume of his accusation. She took a deep breath, trying to regain her shattered composure. She looked the desperate man in the eye and swore to him that she honestly did not know where the hell her brother-in-law was hiding. She firmly ordered the man to get lost and to leave her and her broken family entirely alone. Just as she was attempting to slam the heavy door in his face, a sleek, expensive sports car pulled into the driveway. A tall, incredibly handsome man stepped out, holding a delicate bouquet of flowers. Mel's heart sank. It was Griffin, her date. She offered a weak, apologetic wave. She greeted him, commenting on how nice he looked and how incredibly handsome he smelled. Griffin, slightly confused by the chaotic scene on the porch, pointed at the disheveled stranger and asked who the guy was. Mel immediately waved her hands, insisting that the man was absolutely nobody of consequence. Mel stepped out onto the porch, closing the door slightly behind her to shield Griffin from the madness inside her home. She looked at Griffin, her eyes filled with genuine regret. She told him that she knew he had waited a remarkably long time for this specific date, and she confessed that she had been waiting for it as well. She asked him to look at the situation objectively. She explained that she suddenly had a teenage niece in the middle of a massive emotional crisis. She reiterated how desperately she wanted to go out and enjoy the evening with him, but the reality was that she simply had to stay home and spend some necessary, difficult time with the troubled girl. She lamented the terrible timing, repeatedly telling him how much she truly wanted to be spending the evening with him, and lamenting one final time about how absolutely great he smelled. Griffin, a gentleman to his core, offered an understanding smile. He admitted that he had been really excited to finally take her out on this date. Since he could not actually take her to the expensive restaurant he had booked, he offered a charming alternative. He reached into the back seat of his car and produced a massive, steaming container of gourmet food from his family's famous restaurant. He handed it to her with a gracious bow, suggesting that the massive portion should comfortably hold her over for at least a few weeks, acknowledging with a laugh that in her chaotic life, they simply did not know when they would see each other again. Mel took the heavy container, her heart swelling with completely unromantic gratitude. She stared down at the massive offering and breathed a sigh of pure awe, remarking that it was an entire, literal bucket of rich, savory gravy. The next morning, the house was a whirlwind of disorganized panic. Mel rushed into the kitchen, her hair a chaotic mess, desperately clutching a steaming mug of coffee. Rhonda was already there, attempting to make sense of the overwhelming clutter on the kitchen island. Mel immediately apologized for being so incredibly late. Rhonda raised an eyebrow, questioning just how late Mel actually believed she was. Mel confidently stated that she had finally managed to complete and submit the massive pile of complicated paperwork for the professional nanny agency. She proudly tapped a thick folder resting on the counter. Rhonda stared at her, completely deadpan, and informed her that she was not just slightly late. She was monumentally late. Mel gasped, demanding to know why Rhonda had not mentioned this critical fact significantly earlier. Before the panic could fully set in, the front door swung open with a confident squeak. The disheveled man from the previous night strolled into the kitchen, entirely uninvited. Mel dropped her coffee mug onto the counter with a loud clatter, praying to the heavens for patience. She aggressively told the man to relax, sarcastically declaring that today was apparently a happy visit. The man gestured toward the kitchen table, politely asking for permission to sit. Mel immediately and forcefully denied the request. Undeterred, the man leaned against the counter, completely making himself at home. He introduced himself formally. His name was Joseph Longo. Joe Longo explained that he had spent the entirety of the previous night meticulously analyzing the publicly available municipal city budget online. He enthusiastically presented a brilliant, completely unsolicited thought. He pointed out the massive sum of cash currently languishing in the city's general fund, completely stagnant. He proposed a bold solution. If Mel would simply hire him as her personal financial advisor, he guaranteed he could easily double her rate of return. He explained the cascading benefits of his genius plan. With that generated extra revenue, the city would magically possess more than enough money to fund both the smaller elementary school class sizes and the desperately requested extra garbage pickups. He smiled a charming, winning smile, adding that there would even be enough left over to buy a celebratory pie for absolutely everyone in the district. Mel stared at him, her expression a mask of pure disbelief. She slowly, deliberately clapped her hands together. She admitted that his proposal sounded like an absolutely great plan. She even conceded that she would sign up for his services immediately, if not for the minor, glaring detail that he was a complete and utter lunatic. Joe Longo stood up straight, his pride visibly wounded. He firmly declared that Joseph Longo was absolutely not a lunatic. Mel's eyes widened in sudden recognition. She repeated his name out loud, the pieces finally clicking together in her tired brain. Joe Longo. He was the infamous, ruthless man who had successfully run her brother-in-law's notoriously aggressive commodities division. He was the financial wizard who had legally made Lewis millions upon millions of dollars. Legitimate millions, Joe quickly clarified, leaning forward to emphasize the legality of his past actions. Millions of dollars that her bastard brother-in-law had entirely pissed away before fleeing the country in the dead of night. Mel offered a sarcastic apology for the sudden burst of hostility, mockingly reminding him that this was supposed to be his self-proclaimed happy visit. Joe nodded slowly, acknowledging the tension, and quietly noted that she had gone completely Bolivia on him again for a tense minute there. Joe cleared his throat, shifting the conversation back to his desperate reality. He asked her, with a hint of genuine vulnerability bleeding through his confident facade, what she thought about his proposal. He practically begged her to pull some political strings and get him any sort of job down at City Hall. Mel sighed, the anger draining out of her, replaced by a weary sympathy. She informed him that the city was currently under a strict, mandatory hiring freeze. She offered a genuine apology, stating that she was truly sorry he had lost his lucrative job. Joe waved his hand dismissively, his face tightening with suppressed anxiety. He informed her that losing the job was incredibly old news. The devastating update was that just yesterday, the bank had officially foreclosed on and seized his luxurious condominium. He confessed, his voice dropping to a near whisper, that he really, Desperately